Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up now. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up now.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's day 3 of Atheist Advent, and that means it's time to get into our little Christmas calendar, our little holiday case, and find out what day 3 has in store. Now, so far, we've gotten rocks, but no coal yet, so we'll see how that goes. Perhaps there's some anthracite hiding in here somewhere. This rock does not want to come out. I can't do Advent without the things. Okay, today we have a red and black shiny creature. Very polished, very nice. And it kind of reminds me of like volcanoes and lava and shit. So let's see. According to the handy dandy chart that comes with the thing, this is mahogany obsidian, which is a volcanic glass named for its resemblance to mahogany wood. I mean, I guess it kind of looks like mahogany wood. The reddish part, anyway, has almost that brownish tinge, but there's so much black to it. I don't know. Maybe it's like old mahogany or something. But still, pretty cool. And honestly, it tickles me that we're doing random geology for our Advent, because the whole point of Atheist Advent is to celebrate the accomplishments of secular civilization, despite the best efforts of religion to hold us back. And that leads us to today's topic du jour. I've said twice now on both of the previous episodes that science had to be broken free of the church's repression. today we'll explore how we pulled that off. Welcome to the Enlightenment. Just imagine there's a really cool transition right now, like, what? Live broadcasting. I wish I'd thought of that ahead of time. Thank you all so much for joining. It's lovely to see you all. Let's see. Weed Bro's excited for being first, doing the dancey dance. Oh yeah, we love it. Equus, good to see you. Deviant doing the chair dance. Hell yeah. Mighty Filbert, hello. Ryan wandering by, and Theo. That's right. So I've been doing intros for the other shows. I've been trying to build assets so that each show has its own unique identity. And I gotta say, the other ones are okay, but nothing is quite like Light It Up. But I guess that's kind of, the general Ember Show kind of thing. But on that note, I'm planning another bonus show later today because in the middle of the night last night, I got another breaking news story. And it's pretty cool. So stay tuned for that. I haven't actually set up the show yet. I have like the thumbnail, I have the description. I just haven't like put it into the software. It'll be coming along later today when time allows. So stay tuned. And if you're not subscribed, maybe hit the subscribe button and ring the little bell so you get a notification when that show happens, and other shows too, so you can join us in the live chat. Because whether you're watching now or in the future, we'd love to see you in the live chat. Speaking of which, behold, the live chat. Ta-da! It's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle, perhaps. Oh, Adrian's here. Hello. Good to see you. Ryan says, Ember, you've gotten more subs. A few more. It's true. Yeah, this past week has been, first of all, cool that you remember. But yeah, well, this week, specifically Monday, Tuesday, so far, the channel's been growing. We've been getting hundreds of views on every show. We've been picking up a couple of subscribers on every show. It's not gangbusters growth, but it's freaking growth. For the first time in over a year, we're like really growing. And that's pretty cool. So hooray. And speaking of hooray, we are joined by the atheist queen of Detroit herself, Miss Kelly King. Hello. How are you?
Hello. How are you, everyone? And
Well, I mean, I'm still alive. I can't speak for everybody else, but I imagine that the people in the chat are also alive. They may be bots.
Man, it would be so cool if there was like a ghost in chat. We can talk to them.
I know. If we did have a ghost, though, that would be one way to secure Sumami viewing every single show.
Yes.
Breeze buzzing along. Hello, beautiful.
Hello, beautiful.
Yay. So many of our cool friends, our wonderful community. Now, I mentioned yesterday, I don't know much about the Enlightenment. I know the general shape of things, the general principle, but unlike the two previous shows, I don't know the specifics very well. So we're going to learn about this together. And when I need to learn about something, because I am a child of the 80s, I learned to read early. I was devouring my parents' college textbooks by the age of 3. I loved to read, but we didn't have the internet. So when I wanted to know about something that the adults around me didn't know, I went to the encyclopedia. Oh, no. I mean, libraries are amazing, but I lived on a farm in the middle of nowhere. And
okay. See, I lived
in
the city.
To a library.
The library was like half a mile away from us.
Yeah.
We would walk. But we
did. I went every time I got the chance, if I could sneak away from school and go. But yeah, mostly encyclopedia. So yeah, we're gonna go peek at what the encyclopedia. That's not what I wanted. Software, goodness. You know what? If we do this, okay, that's closer. Whatever. Well, we could. Nope, that made it smaller. What about this? Nope, that's not doing. You know what? I'm not getting the shape shifting I wanted. It's an adventure. Oh well. Bree points out that she does ghost content pretty regularly. Every Saturday, in fact.
Yes, and I
Ghosts,
really enjoy it.
aliens, trans-dimensional travelers, and demons.
Yes.
So yeah, subscribe to Hive Psi if you're
If you
into
don't.
that kind of thing. I am, and I'm there just
Yes.
about every Saturday. So, just throwing that out there. If you want to flirt with me in a comments section, that's one place you can almost always find me.
Yeah, we were talking about maybe looking into during Black History Month, the haunted plantations or something together. Hopefully we be able to do that. 'Cause that's interesting, and I would love to be on her show to do that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, there's
Anything with
a lot of
Bree
cool
is
stuff.
wonderful to me. Working with her, anything. But
All right. So, before we get started, I suppose, you know what, we'll switch back over here so we can be bigger again. What is your baseline understanding of the Enlightenment? What do you think that period of time was all about and how it went and so forth?
I have no idea. I'm coming with this with a clean slate. I mean, I know like with the Buddhist enlightening, have a sense of yourself and stuff like that. But in that era, I don't know. I've never learned anything about it. If it's something different, you just was aware and your surroundings, and your mind was clear. You can meditate. That's what the enlightenment was to me, more of like a meditation. But anything else, I don't know.
Okay. I think that may be one of the reasons that the time period is first of all, American educational systems are terrible. We're intentionally bad. We've been dismantling our schools for decades. So a lot of Americans have no fucking idea about any of this. But also there's so much stuff with the same name, and it's not made clear what things are different. So this Enlightenment is a period in Europe. It's the active part of the Renaissance, right? Like there's the beginning part of the Renaissance where the old knowledge was being rediscovered. The Greek works and the scholars were starting to internalize and chew over the things that we'd known thousands of years ago, but got lost because the church didn't want people reading. And then it took a few generations, but then people started to make progress with the things that were being rediscovered. New technologies, Gutenberg's presses, Galileo's telescopes, so on and so forth. And those technologies led to an increasing cycle of innovation and more discovery that started to break us firmly out of the Dark Ages and the church's grip. And that's what this Enlightenment is about. It's Europe awakening to the fact that while not all religion is necessarily like this, yes, they are. They're not. The church of the Middle Ages in Europe was very harmful and very much repressed people on purpose for political power. And so we're going to get into some of that. It should be fun, probably, maybe. We'll see. Okay, so Encyclopedia Britannica, which is almost as reliable as Wikipedia, but never mind that. And that incidentally, I know I just said never mind, but it's worth noting the Encyclopedia Britannica did a spot check of the accuracy of facts within Encyclopedia Britannica versus within Wikipedia, and found that Wikipedia is more accurate than the Encyclopedia Britannica. And that was Britannica's own study. The reason for that is because Wikipedia can be updated in real time, whereas Britannica has to wait a year for the next edition. So, something to chew on there. So the Enlightenment. This timeline starts us at 1610. I've heard 1615, but somewhere in the early 17th century. So this fellow, y'all might recognize, is good old Galileo. Now, he's had a few songs written about him, and there's a few legends about his exploits.
Galileo.
That's right. But for our purposes, the thing that gives him credit for kickstarting the Enlightenment, is the publication of his book, The Sidereal Messenger. And it's actually more of a pamphlet. It was like 15 pages on parchment, but whatever. In this book, he describes his discovery of Jupiter's 4 big moons, the Galilean moons, the planet-sized moons orbiting Jupiter. The fact they orbit Jupiter was a problem for the world at the time, because the church held that the Earth was the unmoving center of the cosmos, that the unmoved mover had created an unmoving perfect center, and everything orbited Earth. And so it was central to Christian theology at the time that the Earth be the center of the cosmos and everything orbits the Earth. Finding moons orbiting Jupiter means that not everything orbits Earth. So this was the first big crack in the church's domination of all society, because it showed the church was wrong in a way that anybody could check for themselves. If you could get your hands on a sufficiently advanced telescope, one that could let you see far enough. I mean, technically you can see Jupiter's moons with the naked eye, but it's really hard to make them out. Point is, anybody could verify Galileo's findings and find out that the church had lied. They were wrong. The infallible church with the infallible magic book is obviously wrong. Hence the church having some arguments with Galileo about his scientific work. And a few other people, but we don't talk about Bruno. What we do, there was an astronomer named Bruno that they burned at the stake. That's not just a joke. There was an astronomer named Bruno, and they burned him at the stake for doing science that happened to show the church was wrong. Not his point. It's just when you check fairy tales against reality, the fairy tales will lose. And the church was mad about it, so they killed him. Amazing. But good news side, Lil of all trades sent us a super chat for $5. Thank you, Lil. And says the Enlightenment, as discussed by fiery ladies, can't love it more. Woohoo.
We love you too, and we wish that you were with us, but we understand that you can't be on today.
She may sneak in later. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Silencio Bruno. Yeah. It's wild. It's wild. So yeah, that was Galileo's thing. Because it overturned Ptolemy's theory of the Earth being the center of the universe. More stuff happened, of course, but this is an encyclopedia timeline, so it gives us a rough overview. 1687, big jump. Isaac Newton publishes the Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, or the Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy. This was important for a lot of reasons. It set out the laws of motion, Newton's version of relativity, gravity. Also, there's so much. For the longest time, natural philosophy was just that. It was philosophy. People had an idea, and then they tried to reason out whether the idea held weight or not. It was very rare to be able to actually check an idea, to compare it against reality. Newton gave us mathematical means to do that on the philosophical side. It's also important to do the actual science, to do the observations and experiments and check actual reality. But adding mathematics to what had been pure logic opened up whole new worlds of things. And as you can tell, the laws of motion, the formulas for gravity. And it's worth noting, Galileo also had a theory of relativity. It's not talked about here because, again, overview. But Galileo happens to be one of those figures in the history of astrophysics, so I know a bit more about him. He published one of the earlier editions of a theory of relativity, where he proposed what we now consider to be frames of reference, which is central to Einstein's relativity. Because like we discussed on Monday, there is no absolute motion. There's only relative motion because everything is in motion. So you can only really measure motion compared to your own motion. You feel like you're at rest, but that's just your state of inertia. You're still moving. You're still on a spinning planet orbiting the sun, orbiting the center of the galaxy, and the galaxy is zipping off through the cosmos. You are moving. You just don't feel it because there's no acceleration. There's just inertia. And there's gravitational acceleration, but never mind that. In any case, so Galileo wrote, envision yourself as a person on the deck of a ship. Intellectually, you know the ship is moving along a coast. But from your point of view, if the ocean is still that day and you're not being rocked by waves, it seems as though you're holding still and the coast is gliding past you. He's not wrong. That's his version of relativity. It's motion is relative, and that's kind of important. It deals with a lot of things. It's in some ways it set the stage for Newton. In 1689, John Locke, yes, that John Locke, completed a major work in political philosophy, 2 treatises of government. In this work, he defends a doctrine of natural rights and a conception of political authority as limited and conditional on the ruler's fulfillment of his obligation to serve the public good. A classical formulation of principles of political liberalism, this work will later influence the American and French revolutions. And I dare say, while Locke was not right about everything, mayhaps we ought to reintroduce this work because it seems like today's American citizens really need to understand this.
Yes.
Now, this may be, one of the holes in my own education, because while I did pursue law studies, I never really got into the political side of things. And part of the Enlightenment was hugely political. So I didn't explore that. I was interested in like the ideas side of philosophy, not so much the, well, you can't get an ought from an is, therefore we should have liberal democracies. Like it wasn't ever of interest to me, so I never studied it, and I was never presented with it because, as we discovered a few days ago, my civics classes sucked. Shock and surprise, American education. It's awful. Like, okay, for anybody who missed it, I forget which show I was on because I do so many damn shows. But TLDR, I was trying to describe certain elements of constitutional republics with prime ministers and presidents and legislative bodies and stuff. And I was articulating what I had been taught in American schools. And everyone from other countries was saying, Ember, that's wrong. That's really wrong.
Oh, I do remember that.
And I'm like, oh, silly me for trusting my own educational system when it comes to civics.
But how would we know? Just like, Bree was chatting, showing me a lot of stuff, history, Black history stuff, that's something we might be doing. But it's like scary because she was like, I didn't learn this till I was grown. And I said, actually, I didn't either. Stuff that we should have known about.
Yeah, there's so much stuff that's deliberately hidden, like civics classes, for one thing. How our government works, how other government works. I understand why they don't want us to know how other governments work, because we might see how a functioning government works, but never mind that. But there's so much of history. You want to talk about, first of all, we're steered away from interest in politics intentionally so that we're all disengaged and whatnot. That's why I never developed an interest in political philosophy, because as a child, I was interested in virtually everything. The only way to get me not interested is to steer me away from it, to say, hey, look at the shiny supernovas. Go learn about them. So I did, because supernovas are fucking shiny. But also the political implications from history. All the history that's blocked out, like the firebombing of Tulsa, for instance, or the bulldozing of the Central Park Village. Like all of there's so many things where every single time Black people started to build their own communities with wealth and success and prosperity, the white people used the military to blow them the fuck up.
We were just
Well,
people talking about that.
Not my
But
America.
yeah.
So we're just not going to teach about it. We're going to pretend it never happened. We're going to try to erase the history. And to some extent,
like
they succeeded.
we learned
because I didn't learn about it till I was an adult.
Yeah, we learned about basic stuff: Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, maybe Sojourner Truth. That's what we learned. Nothing else. Maybe like Maya Angelou, because we had to read her book. You know, but even then, even in Detroit, predominantly Black area, that's what we had to learn. It wasn't until I got grown able to research and look. Now that we did have African American history, but that was an elective class. So unless you went to that class, you didn't learn anything.
It's
sad.
It's infuriating. Like you learn about the white people by default, but you need to do an elective to learn about the Black people.
Yeah.
Which, like we were discussing the other day, so much of our culture comes from Black people, like rock and roll and jazz music and like all of music except possibly country. And even then there were Black country singers too. But
but then you have blues. Blues is blues and country go hand in hand. You know, you get the banjo and it's the same thing. But you know.
Yeah. They're so related, and it drives me nuts because even when we do learn about it, it's always an abridged version. Like I remember Black History Month, we talked about Harriet Tubman one time in school because Harriet Tubman, both her house and her grave are very near to where I live. It's like 20 minutes away.
Okay.
And so they're like, we're focusing on her because she's technically local, which is... I'm thinking of unrelated news stories. Focus Ember. Too many tangents. I can't keep it fucking track. We still didn't learn much about her actual life. They were like, she was a former slave. She helped with the Underground Railroad. She was instrumental to the abolition movement. But they didn't tell us that after she made it to freedom, she turned around and went back and rescued more people and brought them north. And then when they were safe, she turned around and went back and rescued more people. And she kept doing it. She got better and better. She became a spy for the fucking Union because she was able to slip into and out of the South without being caught. Because of course she was. She had to get the slaves she was rescuing to safety.
Then you didn't find out until I watched episode of Black History, of Drunk History, that she went around and was burning the plantations and was really fought in the war. The Civil War. I didn't learn about that until after Drunk History. So I'm good and grown when that show was out. She went around and was burning the plantations and stuff like that. That was a good show. I learned more in Drunk History than I did in history class.
Yeah, because they have actual historians, so they don't hide the truth. It's so freaking cool. But it's good to study, and stuff like that especially is good to study because, like we talked about last week, sometimes peaceful change requires, let's say, being a bit more assertive than holding a protest. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more Harriet Tubman and take some more direct action. Sometimes that's what it takes.
I am going to answer right-handed Sith. What about classical? Now it's rumored that Beethoven was Black. I don't know how true that was, but that was rumor. He was Black. He was a white passing, but I don't know. I'll just say that.
I can't say for sure. I mean, it seems unlikely for a German person, but on the other hand, there's immigration. But also there are a number of American musicians who were white passing, and restarted their lives as white people, even though they were very much black people. It's pretty interesting. Quite a bit of modern music owes its legacy to those individuals. But that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
do love my tangents, but
Yes. We're getting enlightened.
that's exactly. We're doing all sorts of I think that's one of the best things about our shows, especially being all science positive, like us science focused this week, is we're learning about all sorts of random shit just along the way. So yeah. All right, continuing on. Let's see. 1696, the deistic philosopher John Toland publishes Christianity Not Mysterious. I am not familiar with this work at all. In this work, he seeks to show that there is nothing in the Gospels contrary to reason nor above it. Any doctrine that is really above reason, he argues, would be meaningless to humans. That's an interesting take.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of right from a philosophical standpoint. If a thing were beyond reason, then humans literally would not understand it. It's not necessarily that it's above reason, but it would definitely be meaningless. Which means that the Gospels, from this point of view, cannot be supernaturally super reasonable or something like. But that would also, I don't know, there's a lot to be discussed here. Like some of the, I could see apologists who actually studied philosophy and understood any of this shit paging Bill Craig. This is literally your job, you lazy fuck. If they'd actually studied this shit, they could argue that many of the translation errors and contradictions and stuff that we find issue with in the Gospels are there because it has to be dumbed down to human level, effectively. And translating from divine super reason to human understanding involves error. It has to. There's something to that, I think.
Yeah.
But we don't need to dwell on it for today. 1721. Who is this being with this beautiful beak?
I would say that's a big nose.
My goodness.
I didn't want to judge nobody.
This is Montesquieu, who published his first book, Letters Parisian Letters. This book gives a brilliant satirical portrait of French and particularly Parisian civilization, supposedly seen through the eyes of two travelers. The work mocks the reign of Louis XIV, which had recently ended, poked fun at all social classes, and discusses the theories of Thomas Hobbes, yes, that Hobbes, relating to the state of nature. It also satirizes Roman Catholic doctrine and is infused throughout with a new spirit of vigorous, disrespectful, and iconoclastic criticism. Perhaps we need a bit more of this, too. Because of the state of our nation, we're in a very similar situation in many ways, philosophically, if nothing else. It's we could do with more satire mocking the idiocy of the assholes in charge and their sycophants, of course. 1734. Voltaire. Who hasn't read and loved some good Voltaire? He published the Philosophical Letters, in which he speaks out against established religions and political systems. The work creates an uproar, and he is forced to flee Paris. Now, he did quite a bit more than that, but again, summary for an encyclopedia's timeline. It goes to show, like, he contributed a lot to the thought of human reason and moral systems and structures and ideas about that sort of stuff later on. But the fact in 1734, he could come out and say religions are a bad way to run things. Yes, he was driven from the city, but the fact that the words could be spoken or written, which in some ways is even more dangerous, was kind of a breakthrough, because it showed the people not only could they question the political heads of state, they could question the church. Maybe they'd get driven out of their towns, but they could do it. And once you allow people to start asking questions, your totalitarian dominance of culture begins to crumble.
Yeah.
So
Don't
that's
ask questions.
1735 in Systema Nature, the system of nature, Swedish, Deviant, where are you at? Swedish naturalist Carolus Linnaeus presented a classification of 3 kingdoms of nature. We talked about him a bit yesterday with the theory of evolution. His 3 kingdoms were stones, plants, and animals. This is the basis of the bored person game 20 questions, where people always start out with is it animal, vegetable, or mineral? That's why animal, vegetable, mineral. We know there's things that are none of those, like fungi, for example.
Yes.
But the reason people have this idea in mind is because Linnaeus got a head start. Each kingdom is subdivided into classes, orders, genera, species, and varieties. The system is still used, sort of, in biology, although it has evolved over the years. We don't use it so much for geology, because while you can do a sort of cladistic relationship sort of thing, like the rocks we've been seeing, 2 of them so far have been volcanic glass, but they don't relate to each other in the same way biological things relate to each other. You're just describing specific similarities, and there's crossover. Like if you've got a volcanic quartz, it's both obsidian and quartz, and that makes things messy. So it doesn't work as well in other systems. But biology, it's not bad. It's not perfect, but it's not bad.
I'm going to read Deviant's comment. I'm here. I can tell y'all everything. Now this went past everything about Carl von Linnaeus. He's my homie.
He's my homie.
Homie. Oh, homie. Oh, excuse
Yeah.
me. Homie.
Yeah.
It's a gift when I'm reading right.
Like a pet human, like Jester if he were human.
That's from my public school education. Can read right.
Yeah. Pragmatic Crystal, always good to see you. Thank you, PC. Dropping links and things. If you would be so kind, do throw some cash in the bucket. It would really help. I'd very much appreciate it. Let's see. Okay. 1751, the first volume of the French Encyclopedia appears. The encyclopedia created by the philosophies is one of the principal works of the Enlightenment. It's interesting that an encyclopedia is calling the first encyclopedia, or at least modern encyclopedia, as a key work in the Enlightenment. It seems almost self-aggrandizing, but they're not wrong. Compendiuming all of known natural philosophy at the time together into one place, along with historical events and political philosophies and such, it creates the possibility of people having a real reference for the first time in history. Previous to this, you'd have to go to libraries where you could not take out books because they were chained to the damn shelves, assuming you could read it all, and you'd have to compare what this historian wrote to what this historian wrote to what this historian wrote and try to guess what the fucking truth is for yourself. But now there was an objective account of things that reference all sorts of other bits of knowledge you may not have. It didn't teach you everything. No set of books could, but it could give you an objective basis. And that's, I can't overstate how important that was.
Yeah.
In that period of time. So the compilation of available human knowledge reflected an optimism towards scientific and human progress That encyclopedia would eventually total 35 volumes, which is still a pretty damn goodly size, especially since you're summarizing and citing other sources. Like, instead of talking about the Napoleonic Wars, you don't have to give the whole history. You can just reference the historian who did write the whole history. So people can go, oh, if I want to know more, I can go look at these books. And we still use a similar system today where, I mean, not only for books, but for videos too. Like, instead of me recapping the entire video yesterday, I can just say, we talked about this yesterday in yesterday's video about biology. And if you want to know more, you can go look at that video. So we don't have to repeat ourselves all the damn time. We'd never get anything done. There's Sue Mommy. We were talking about having a ghost on the show, something like that.
Yes.
And we thought you might be interested. You know, if we can find a ghosty guest. I mean, I suppose technically speaking, hold please. I got to find the right button. I could qualify because I'm not really here, you see. I got raptured back when we were doing that, and I've been broadcasting from the afterlife ever since. Ooh. That would have made more sense if I were bigger, I suppose. It's fine. It's fine. Also,
you can have as a ghost.
Yeah. Oh, Sue's got a ghost guest for us. Hell yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we do have some ghosty people around. Yeah. So that settles that, I suppose. All right, 1759, Voltaire, back at it again, publishing his best-known work, the satirical novel Candide, a masterpiece of the 18th century. But it doesn't say what it was about. How dare you? I'm dying to know. Let's see if we can find it. Okay. Let's go over here. And the link, it just goes to the freaking encyclopedia. Voltaire Candide. Let's see what happens. Okay, novel by Voltaire. A satirical novel published in 1759 that is the best-known work by Voltaire. It is a savage denunciation of metaphysical optimism as espoused by German philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, and reveals a world of horrors and folly, kind of like modern-day USA. Amazing. Right-handed Sith says, am I a human dreaming I'm a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming that I'm a human? Are you dreaming of being a butterfly? Because if you're not dreaming of being a butterfly, then it's not the first one. Mind Finished Sock says, don't ghost Ember. Like and share the stream instead. And that's sound
Good
advice for
words of advice. Excellent words of advice. Yes.
Faux show. JJ says, I love the way Ember pronounces funny names. Like Humboldt.
I would just be stuck at that.
Let's see. Voltaire's Candide, published when the author was 65 and condemned by numerous clerical and political authorities across Europe, was influenced by various atrocities of the mid-18th century, most notably the devastating Lisbon earthquake of 1755, the outbreak of the horrific 7 Years' War in the German states, and the unjust execution of English Admiral John Byng. I don't know anything about that either. This philosophical tale is often hailed as a paradigmatic text of the Enlightenment, but it is also an ironic attack on the optimistic beliefs of the Enlightenment. Voltaire's critique is directed at Leibniz's principle of sufficient reason, which maintains that nothing can be so without there being a reason why it is so. Let me rephrase that. Nothing can be without a reason why it is. That seems like a fair a priori principle, But
Yeah.
I don't know as I'd accept it as an absolute without a demonstration.
Exactly. I don't know that.
Because, like, I mean, we know now quantum stuff happens. And while there may be a reason behind quantum stuff, from our perspective, it's as close to random as we can get. Like, if there is a reason, we can't access it. So from our point of view, at the present time, stuff effectively happens with no fucking reason. So it appears to us as observers. And that's just one example off the top of my head. The consequence of this principle is the belief that the actual world must be the best one humanly possible. And that's a bit of a problem, because we know we can make a better world if we just try and we stop fucking each other over. We've done it several times in the past. Every time a scientist gets unleashed to just do what they do, and the politicians and the church and the bigot brigade get the fuck out of the way, we end up with titanic advances like pasteurization, for example. Saves millions of lives over the years because people just got the fuck out of the way and let the doctor do the thing.
They should have doing a lot more stuff.
Mm-hmm. At the opening of the novel, its eponymous hero, the young and naive Candide, whose very name bespeaks innocence, is being schooled in this optimistic philosophy by his tutor Pangloss, who claims that all is for the best in this best of all possible worlds. That sounds like trust God because it's all going according to his plan, except the philosophers have removed God but kept the baseless optimism. It's a bit of an oof. I should have marked where the hell I was. Candide discovers on being ejected from the magnificent castle in which he is raised after an illicit relationship with the daughter of a Westphalian baron is exposed. Press gangs, improbably, into the Bulgarian army. Candide deserts to Holland, which was then a bastion of religious liberty in a time of religious conflict, and attempts to unsuccessfully fade into the background. Now, do remember, folks, I've mentioned before, but every video is somebody's first video. Holland, the Netherlands, the various unaffiliated city-states and kingdoms not part of one of the greater powers. They were renowned for their religious tolerance. That's why during Oliver Cromwell's occupancy of the regnal position, he didn't call himself a king, but he effectively was in England. The worst of the Puritans, the most fundamental fundies, decided to check out of this more secular UK. So they went to the Netherlands because there was religious freedom. And so they could be as puritanical and as fundamentalist and as crazy as modern evangelicals as they wanted to be. The problem was it was freedom for everyone. So their children started growing up secular and they panicked. So they took off across the Atlantic where they could shelter their children from everyone else's ideas. Sugar has strong opinions.
Yes. Yes.
Which is fair. That's the whole reason the Plymouth colony was founded. So religious extremists could force their children to be regressive, even though a bunch of them died in the process. Great plan.
Man, that's a whole nother
we're building now.
tangent I can go on about them. But as you say, I digress.
Yes. So the rest of the novel details the multiple hardships and disasters that Candide and his various companions meet in their travels. These include war, rape, theft, hanging, shipwrecks, earthquakes, cannibalism, and slavery. I must admit, those last two I haven't personally encountered just yet. Although there's some question about the cannibalism, but that's we're not getting into that right now.
Yeah.
Although these experiences gradually erode Candide's optimistic belief, he and his companions display an instinct for survival that gives them hope in an otherwise somber setting. When they all retire together to a simple life on a small farm, they tiny house commune is the answer, folks. Voltaire said so. They discover that the secret of happiness is to cultivate one's garden. Mind your own damn business. A practical philosophy that excludes excessive idealism and nebulous metaphysics. And that's why we love Voltaire, because he pissed everyone off. And that's always a noble goal. Oh, goodness. 1762. You know what? All these shipwrecks and things, they make me think ancient history is kind of thirsty work. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you need clean water, you need to, I don't know, possibly deal with a shipwreck situation where you're surrounded by unfiltered water. Well, good news, friends, because we have a solution. Hey folks, I've been working hard on my health, and so far I've lost over 140 pounds. A huge part of good health is hydration. That's why I'm thrilled to partner with Epic Water Filters. Check this out. Not only can you say goodbye to expensive bottled water, but these filters are made in the US, so no tariffs, and they're made to fit your life. From these lovely pitchers I can fill from, to sink units, to portable filters that fit in your reusable bottle. With Epic, I can refill from nature's water sources and not have to worry about bacteria and whatnot. But also, send back a used filter to be responsibly recycled, and they'll send you a free replacement, saving you and the earth even more. Want to save a ton of money, be healthier, and build a better world? Head to epicwaterfilters.com and enter code EMBER15 at checkout for 15% off. Don't settle for random water. Upgrade to Epic. My mouth was getting a little dry there, folks. I'm like, you know what? I need a drink. Hey, the drink, that's a thing we do here. It's not my smoothest work, but it'll do. It'll do. Oh, goodness. All right, Adrian's off. Thank you for dropping by. We'll see you again soon. Feel free to watch back the rest of this later if you want to, because there's more. 1762. Good year, I've heard. Jean-Jacques Rousseau publishes The Social Contract. You may have heard this term somewhere before, but not in the US. In his work, Rousseau challenges the traditional order of society based on binding laws handed down by rulers or the church. He argues instead that laws are binding only if the general will of the people supports them within a type of social contract. That is to say, what the law says doesn't matter so much as what people believe and act upon. And if the law just codifies the standards of behavior that we're all doing anyway, then it's pointless. And if the law dictates something different from humans' inclination or nature, it won't be obeyed. So, in a way we interact with each other carries a lot more weight than whatever's on the law books dictated by some bishop or chat bot or whatever the fuck Republicans are using to draft their legislation now. I believe it's Russian bots, but don't quote me on it. C'est la vie. Social contract. Very fundamental to a whole lot of different disciplines. July 4th, 1776. Fun fact. You're probably thinking the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence is not from July 4th, 1776. Let's see what it says about this. The Declaration of Independence is approved by the Continental Congress meeting in Philadelphia. The document announces the separation of 13 North American British colonies from Great Britain. Couple of notes. There were other colonies that did not sign on. Canada, for instance, and also the territory currently known as Vermont, which was part of New York at the time, seceded and became an independent nation for a brief period before incorporating as a state in its own right. So while they worked with the Continental Army during the Revolution, they didn't become part of the Confederation afterwards. They went their own way. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there. But also, the Declaration was written before then. Obviously, it had to be approved. It was signed on the 3rd, and it was distributed on the 4th. It was announced to the public. It was posted on Facebook on the 4th, you might say. So there's a bit of details to it, but minor, truly minor fucking details. Jefferson was largely responsible for writing the document. It begins with a declaration of individual rights and then lists the alleged acts of tyranny by George III, that the former colony's justification for seeking independence. A couple of Independence Days ago, we read out the entire Declaration of Independence. And honestly, you cannot tell much difference between George III and the current occupant of the White House. It's kind of telling. The document reflects many Enlightenment ideals. These include government by consent of the governed, unalienable human rights, the promotion of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and of course, the social contract, which there are pluses and minuses to. People often think the social contract is just a good idea on the surface because they don't take the time to actually think about it. But a social contract sort of idea does have downsides because stuff like slavery and racism become okay if that's the way your social contract is set up. You have to consider whether each individual thing is both moral and objectively beneficial to the society before you just put it in your social contract, because whatever's normative isn't automatically good. Right-Handed Sith says, maybe they got a medium to channel the spirit of a 1930s to 1940s German ruler to draft their legislation. Maybe. I mean, I'm sure they believe in that sort of shit. It's, oh, goodness. JJ says King George had less STDs. Fewer STDs, but yes. Almost definitely. And he almost definitely had syphilis. And probably better makeup. Indubitably better makeup. I mean, we've seen the powdered wig look of the 18th century. And orange smear, not the same caliber. Absolutely not. No. We can't, no. I can't even with these lazy ass bimbos today. And as a person who this morning put on eyeliner and lipstick, I cannot with the lazy bimbos. Like this is the absolute minimum lazy bimbo for me, you know? You seem to be muted, Kelly.
I said, yes, all I put on is a little bit of lip gloss. I was like, if I'm ugly, I'm just going to be ugly on screen today. And it wouldn't matter. But yeah, I don't know. But I have seen a few where he didn't have all that orange makeup on. It was less. I'm like, what the hell? Why do they do that to that man? I don't know.
Well, he's from New Jersey, so he thinks you have to be orange to be attractive. I can't even. I'm not going there. Nope, dodging that tangent.
I mean, let's have a good show.
We'll try. Oh, goodness. Right-Handed Sith says Adolf Trumpler needs to learn what a blending sponge is. Yeah. Fuck's sake. 1787, the efforts of the French regime to increase taxes on the privileged classes initiates a crisis, which marks the beginning of the French Revolution. It's always the damn taxes. Like, people whine and whine about injustice and horrible excesses of the super wealthy, but it's always a fucking random tax. And people are like, all right, now we're breaking out the guillotines. Fucking capitalists, I tell you. 1790, in his essay, thank goodness there's a translation, on the admission of women to the rights of citizenship. Ooh, feminism. The Marquis de Condorcet argues that the widely shared assumption that the natural rights of men are based on their capacities for reason or moral action logically implies that women possess the very same rights. He is one of the few men during the Enlightenment to advocate that women be granted full equality and citizenship in society. So the Enlightenment started feminism and equality for other groups of people too.
How dare they
Yeah.
start feminism?
See, this is what the church was talking about the inevitable moral decay. In 1610, when Galileo said that not everything orbits the earth, the church was like, oh no, the moral decay. This is the inevitable consequence.
Yes.
Give it 180 years and suddenly feminism.
How dare they?
What the fuck? The church has been trying so hard to keep women property for thousands of years, and then bloop, feminism. Tsumami says, well, he was murdered by his own people. I think that may be in reference to someone else, like Gaddafi.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, I don't know. It doesn't say. The Marquis. This fella may have been murdered by his own people too. It's hard to say. 1791, Thomas Paine. Thomas, bring me a sugar daddy. I went Sean Connery there for a second. I blame this prosthetic. The word got stuck there for a second. I blame my prosthetic that doesn't actually fit. It gets a little loose sometimes, and then weird noises come out of my face. Thomas Paine publishes The Rights of Man in support of the French Revolution and republicanism, which turned out to be a mistake. Now, by republicanism, they mean representative democracy, where you vote on representatives instead of voting on things directly. The idea being, because rich people have all the education, you vote for your favorite rich person who will represent your interests because they're educated and know statecraft and diplomacy and will get shit done for you. As opposed to now, where it's you vote for the guy who hates hardest against the people you also hate, apparently.
Until you realize that he hates you too.
Details.
Oh,
JJ says, I'll take whore ads for 600. It's who reads. I'm not sure what that means, but I mean, if YouTube is running whore ads on my videos, then we're nailing the right demographic. And by nailing, I mean charging. Shh, that's another website. We don't talk about that here. Good.
Yeah, we don't get no kind of no.
1793, Reign of Terror. This is the future the liberals want. Goodness. During the period of the French Revolution known as the Reign of Terror, harsh measures are taken against those suspected of being enemies of the revolution. And this is the thing you got to be careful of with revolutions. Like, you can overthrow the bad guy, and then somebody else will come in and be like, okay, I'm king now. You, and you off with your heads because you're my political enemies. And I am the revolution. Like, your shit can get taken over by another authoritarian or totalitarian asshole real easy if you're not careful. And if you try to keep things fair and equitable, the strongman will kill you too. A wave of executions take place in Paris. In the provinces, representatives on mission and surveillance committees institute local terrors. At least 300,000 suspects are arrested during the Reign of Terror, and about 17,000 are officially executed. Perhaps another 10,000 die in prison or without trial. You know, like we're doing now in the US. But never mind that. Key facts. The Enlightenment, also known as the Age of Reason, was a philosophical movement in Europe during the 17th and 18th centuries. At its core was a belief. It's weird that they end on the French, not just the Revolution, but the Reign of Terror. Like, that's it. We're done. We're all enlightened now. It's the start of the Napoleonic era. That's what happens is we change the era. It's no longer Europe. See, to have an Enlightenment era, even though there's random wars breaking out, like we mentioned, the 7 Years' War or the constant wars in the Germanic states, because there was no unified Germany for most of history. Most of Europe was mostly at peace for most of that time. And that's another thing that's required for this kind of era. For philosophers to sit around and ponder shit, you generally need an outbreak of peace. The French Revolution changed things, not just for France, but eventually leading directly to the rise of Napoleon, and suddenly Europe, the whole continent, is embroiled in wars again, and empires and shit. And we're starting the whole damn mess over again, because this is how the church got power in the first place, is some bunch of assholes wanted to be king shit over everyone, took over everything, and then instituted an official religion that gave them the best ability to control people's lives. The empire fell, but the religion stayed in charge. And that's how we got the Dark Ages. Here we are going through the centuries of Enlightenment, and the ultimate outcome is some other asshole comes along and decides to set up another empire. Humans, please fucking learn.
They won't. Because see, what I think is that people look at history, even the bad stuff, Adolf Hitler, Napoleons and stuff like that, and they think they can take their ideas and better it. Just like with slavery, and then they try to do the apartheid, they bettered it. So sometimes people look at history, they don't want to see what's better in it. They want to do it to try to do that same thing, that same evil thing. And that's corrupt, but that's how some people think.
Well, there's a lot of different ways you end up at totalitarian dictators, authoritarians, all this shit. Is you'll have people who just want power and will say and do whatever it takes to get power, like our current administration here in the US.
Yeah.
Or you've got people who are true believers in the cause, but because our educational system is very bad, and this is true throughout history, not just in the US right now, they confuse the plan for the goal. They say the goal is noble. The goal will increase human freedom and flourishing and whatnot. The plan to get there is we're going to take over the whole fucking country and kill everyone who disagrees. And then they decide, because the goal is worth any price, it must be accomplished no matter who has to suffer along the way. They confuse the plan with the goal, and they think carrying out the plan is the same as fulfilling the goal. But the plan is not the goal. The goal is the goal. And these true believers who get trapped in these dogmatic ruts of this is how we do the thing are not helping their own case. They're undermining their own ability. They're spinning their wheels. They're doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. The goal is the goal. Take whatever fucking route you need to make progress towards the goal. And also, incidentally, if your movement requires the executions of disbelievers, maybe you should reevaluate your goals. I'm just saying. So yeah, you get the power-hungry assholes, but also the true believers who become extremists and lose the plot. You can get there both ways.
Exactly.
It's an oof. Sumami says, "Let me be the monarch. Shit will be great, but know that everyone has to house a kitty cat. But I will redistribute housing so that it works." That makes sense. Because in every house has a kitty cat, and some of them have humans. If you can convince the cat to let you in, you can keep the house. Equus says, "I'm doing my part. I have 5 kitties."
Oh,
there you go. Hell yeah. Oh goodness. I know some people are allergic to cats. My father was, for example. But like we can work things out. We can get around it. It'll be fine. Goodness. Alrighty, folks. I'm going to take a quick break here, and by quick I mean just under 3 minutes, because we appear to be at the end of the Age of Enlightenment, at least in overview. But we still have a few minutes of show, so I'm going to see what other nonsense we can get into, and we'll be right back.
I have a problem with this stuff being normalized across the spectrum, and specifically, like, why push this on kids? Why introduce this to kids?
I am a depraved wretch. I am a great sinner. I'm a worm, completely undeserving of any love or any grace. I'm nothing. I'm nothing.
You're incapable of being a good person. You're an evil person. You're a terrible person. At the core fabric of who you are. That's why we need laws. We need laws because we're bad people. All of us are bad people.
You can't spell Pride Month without demon. PRIDEMONTH.
If we don't know who the women are, because they are just people, then we won't be able to pull the women up to equality with men.
We have to try to limit the harm. And that means reducing or keeping down the number of people who transition. And that's for two reasons. One of them is that every one of those people is a person who's been damaged. But the second one is every one of those people is basically, you know, a huge problem to a sane world.
Transgenderism must be eradicated.
The LGBT, transgender, grooming our children's minds is a national security threat. We need to hold people for treason, start having some public hearings, and start executing people.
I will use whatever gives me victory. I don't care about the truth, and I don't care about the law. I care about one thing, the control.
But then they rigged the election, and now we won, so I'm going to be your president.
Then what happened is they rigged the election, and I became president, so that was a good thing.
I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president, but I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian.
I just want to say I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes.
It was actually a tremendous blessing to these children for them to be killed and go to heaven and be with God.
We've been hoodwinked. We've been taken in by an ideology crafted by creeps and then pushed on children.
Stop letting people pressure you into thinking.
I want to be ignorant, honestly.
Being a Christian doesn't exclude us from experiencing spiritual dryness.
We're bad people. All of us are bad people.
And if you're struggling with spiritual dryness, good news. We have a solution. You can go to epicwaterfilters.com and enter code EMBER15 for 15% off all these handy bottles and Philly things. I have one of these Philly things right here. So I can refill my bottle. Because I get very thirsty. So yeah, just throwing that out there.
I want
so
to
the
be
end.
ignorant.
I know. Well, that's the ethos. I want to be ignorant, honestly. Like, congratulations, Eric. Mission fucking accomplished. But
You
you took a
already
few million
are.
people with you.
You
Shit.
already are. Did you watch his last? Well, Forrest. I'm not gonna watch his movies, but Forrest's last thing about his last movie.
I thought Forrest had already covered that one, honestly, but yeah. So Forrest Velkais, who we're talking about, the renegade science teacher, who is one of my favorite humans. I've met him. He's even more wholesome in person than he comes off as in his videos. But also, he's one of the main reasons I'm here, because years ago, I was randomly cruising the YouTubes, and the algorithm noticed I liked science content. And so it started giving me Forrest's Reacteria videos. And once it noticed I liked Forrest, it started showing me other things that Forrest was on, like the Atheist Experience. And so I blew my mind. I'm like, there's a whole community of people who just reject religion. Amazing. And so I binge watched the shit of that, the old stuff with like Tracy Harris and Jen and all those wonderful people who are no longer around. I can't imagine why that could be. But yeah, that's what showed me there was a community here. because Forrest is a bad influence. So
How
why?
long have you been deconstructed? You've been on
I
the
don't
dark
know.
side.
I don't know if deconstruction properly applies to me, because even though I am a minister, I was never really captured by Christianity in the first place. My grandmother tried. She kept bringing me to churches all the time. Every church she could find, we would drive hours to get to another church. But I was one of those little kids who kept asking questions, because nobody ever managed to get into my head, don't ask questions. It never stuck. So I would ask questions. I'd ask things like, if God is all good, why did he flood the whole planet? Couldn't he have done things another way? Now, this is modern me asking a question like that. As a
Yeah.
child, it would be more child flavored, but along those
Exactly.
lines, like noticing the obvious contradictions and asking about them. And when I did, I would get, oh, that's a question for the pastor. And then when I asked the pastor, they'd tell my grandmother to never bring me back, because they couldn't
Wow.
answer the elementary challenges of a small child. And, there's apologists running around who use examples exactly like that to explain why their services as apologists are so necessary. Because if you as a pastor can't defend your faith against the innocent inquiries of a child, what good is your faith? So buy my book, so you can answer the questions of children, and so affirm to yourself that you actually do have a legitimate faith and shit. It's
That's
maybe
crazy.
question what you believe if you can't answer the questions of a small child, but whatever. I digress. The point is, Christianity never stuck. My grandmother tried, but it never really, I tried too, honestly. When I was in the Navy, for example, at the time, it may be different now, you had to be one of two religions. You were Catholic or Protestant. If you were Jewish, you were Protestant, because anything that's not Catholic is Protestant. If you're Hindu, you're Protestant. If you're Wiccan, you're Protestant. If you're no religion, you're a Protestant. So we had to go to Protestant services. And the reason the Navy does this, by the way, is so that they can release statistics showing that 97% of service members are Christian for political reasons.
Wow.
We're not. We're categorized. This is what we do. We do it with the false binaries all over the place. Male and female only. We have declared there will only be male and female, and behold, over 99% of people identify as male or female, because we have made it so you can't choose any other option. It's circular and it's bullshit, but whatever. I digress. The point is, all of us who believed other stuff had to go to the Protestant service. That was it. That was all you could do. And so we tried like hell. I was in the chaplain program. Like, I had to administer to the spiritual needs of all these other people who believed all this other non-Christian stuff. So even while I was trying to force myself to believe Christianity so I could fucking fit in, I was also being exposed to all these other religious ideas that conflicted with Christianity, and no really good reason to accept any of them over any other. So Christianity never really stuck. And so I didn't properly deconstruct, because I didn't correctly indoctrinated in the first place.
I just wish I had that mindset. My mindset was that my parents knew everything. I didn't know anything. So if they said something, it was true then. Even though I questioned a lot of stuff, I was like, well, I'm probably thinking of things wrong. I was not. But it took me till I was damn near 40 to realize it.
Well, I know it gets overused as an explanation for the development of our psyches, our understandings, and our way of thinkings, but I suspect trauma may play a role, because a lot of children grow up trusting their elders, trusting their parents. I wasn't burdened with such illusions. I've been through several periods of disillusionment with various things over the years, like trusting the government or trusting the police or etc. I've had to get past a lot of these hurdles, but I never really had to do that with my parents, because when I was very little, they behaved in some very obviously unfair ways. And once I realized they weren't always right, they didn't always have my best interests in mind, they, you know, all the different things that make you trust what your parents teach you, I was disillusioned of those before they had a chance to set in. Now, my parents were not Christian. They turned out to be what we would call neo-pagans, but I didn't discover that until I was 18. For all intents and purposes, they were completely secular. But because I didn't trust my parents, and my grandmother only slightly more, I didn't believe what anybody told me about anything. I'm like, no, you have to show me. I'm not going to take it on faith. You have to show me it's true, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe, I mean, I'd have to do surveys to collect solid data. Anecdotes are not evidence, but I suspect a lot of the group of people that never got indoctrinated either were raised without any particular religion, or due to early trauma, never really trusted their parents enough to get indoctrinated. Perhaps. It's a hypothesis. It's not, you know, there's no science behind it. It's just a hypothesis. But you never know until you check.
Yeah.
So to speak. So yeah, how did you encounter your enlightenment? Did the Ghost of Voltaire come at you with novels in French, or did something else happen?
I think I talked to you about it earlier, but I was watching a Penn and Teller video, and they were talking about the Passover. Did a magic act on the Passover, and that kind of got me thinking, like, well, what the hell? Like, yeah, why did God kill the firstborn sons? And then I started watching, I don't want to mention somebody's name, watching somebody else's videos, or somebody I don't want to name right now on your show, and they started talking about slavery and stuff. Because these black women came on this show talking, and they said, well, why do you believe in God if he had you for slaves so many years? And I was like, well, damn. Yeah, why am I believing this? This guy don't, if his God is real, he don't care about me anyway. Then watching the ACA shows and stuff like that kind of got me down a rabbit hole as well. You know, but as I was watching it, Matt was on the show, and so was Eric Murphy. They was hosting the show. But I was like, if I would have had seen this when I was younger, I would have been an unbeliever way before. And I didn't know, like, the call-in shows was around like 26 years now. So when I was younger, they was here. I'm like,
Yeah,
man.
they were local access in Austin.
That's
long before they've digitized some of their old TV episodes where people had saved a tape or something. But a lot of the older shows are just gone because they were on cable. And if nobody taped them, they're just gone.
Man, if I would have had access to those, I would have been not being a believer. I was like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's a shame that it stayed local to Austin until the internet happened, because a show like that I could easily see being syndicated, even if it's like, you know, reruns at 1 a.m. on WGN or something on a Saturday night, like whatever the case may be. I could see that kind of thing being rebroadcast.
Or that other places, like religious groups, had started their own thing as well. Like, where was there no? I was just the only main call-in show for years until the line and stuff came up. Like, that's crazy. The debates.
Well, they weren't the only ones. Like, to look at it from today, it looks that way, but in actuality, there was a bit of an evolution. Like, most of the big names in atheism today, and I only entered this space and got to know the community after much of the original history went down. But most of the big names like Paula Gia, Shannon Q, Matt Dillahunty, Jimmy Snow, they were all participants in the original online call-in shows. Things like the Non Sequitur show, for example, which they also hosted debates and stuff. And there's still echoes rippling through the atheosphere about the implosion of that show. But there are other channels. There are older channels. Some of them less directly active. Jacqueline Glenn, for example, has a gigantic channel, and she never had to sell out to Sean McDowell to get Christians to follow her, but she's not aggressively atheist all the time. She's been getting more active in that regard again, but to her, it's just one part of her life. Shannon Q has put a lot more effort into her actual real life, and so we see her around a lot less often.
She was on recently, though. It was good
but
to
yeah,
see.
all of these people that are legends in the community now, we've seen them in action on other call-in shows like the ACA shows or the Line or whatever, but they started as just people who happened to be there. And then they stuck around. This is why so many people associate these call-in shows with the necessary step to their own success. That's why so many creators get obsessed with, I have to get on the Line or I have to get on one of the ACA shows in order for people to see me as a legitimate creator and start actually growing a channel. But you don't. In fact, in some ways, what's available now could be harmful to your dreams of building up a community on YouTube, because if you inherit a community, if you draw from a community that isn't what you want to do, then you're going to get stuck doing what you don't want to do. Now, in some people's case, like Jovan Bradley, whose main thing is he's a leftist debater, there's a lot of overlap with what Jimmy Snow likes to do. So the partnership works out well for them. But then there's other people like Mark Reed, who is much more into the philosophical side of things and finding out what the truth is rather than telling theists they're wrong. They're not incompatible, but they're not the same. There's not much overlap, right? There's a few people in both audiences, but there's not that much overlap. And so him being on the Line shows didn't really do much for his channel, because people would move over, see what he does and go, meh, not for me. And then you end up with situations where you start having to either make content you don't want to make, burning out and leaving YouTube forever, or doing what you do want to do and severing ties with the section of the community that you didn't need to be tied up with in the first place. So I guess all that is to say, everybody who's big today started out as just a person. They got great by being good at what they do, by being excellent, by producing quality content, not necessarily because of their connections. There was a bit of that sometimes gives people a leg up. Good for them when it happens, but you don't need to tie yourself to an existing fan base in order to make it. It's not even a very good shortcut most of the time. Just throwing that out there for people's consideration. Oh, we broke Kelly again.
I be having a cough. That's why I be doing that. I don't want to.
I see. I see.
Yeah. I didn't break me. Yeah, my body's already broken.
I relate. It's an oof. It's an oof.
I said this cough should have been gone by now, but it just don't want to go. Damn you, cough.
Yar. Yeah, Sumami says Jimmy is actually one of the few who is refreshingly knowledgeable about intersectional issues, like where politics and religion have convened to destroy democracy in the U.S. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Jimmy and I have a lot of similarities. We got along really, really well. It's really unfortunate that stopped. C'est la vie. But many of you may remember the tapir emoji that we used to have. That was from an inside joke with Jimmy. It's a shame. C'est la vie. But what's that?
I was being funny. I said, and now you know me. It's even better.
Hell yeah. Now we have better emojis with prettier people. Anyway. Alrighty, folks. I'm going to wrap up here. Of course, there's always more to learn, and you should. Like the end of that article about the Enlightenment mentioned that the scientific revolution powered many of these discoveries and breakthroughs. So That's another thing definitely worth learning about. Like we've talked about on other shows, a lot of the breakthroughs were possible because of better microscopes, better telescopes, better book printing, all these things. Technology helped a lot. And so learning about the scientific revolution, absolutely pivotal. But also, remember, Atheist Advent is continuing. Not only are we doing Hot Topic every day, weekdays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, but it's not just Hot Topic. It's Atheist Advent. So we get our random geology. Again, if you're joining us late, subscribe. Join us for more shows. Tomorrow, we're doing agriculture. Because in order to have a civilization, you got to eat. We talked about it a little bit when we were in evolution, but we're going to dig in the dirt. Our Bible verse of the day will be sow thy seeds. Because it's Advent. Every day gets a Bible verse. Incidentally, today's is the beginning of wisdom. Because it's the Enlightenment. You see, I'm clever sometimes. You may applaud, or you could throw money. I appreciate both. So we've got a bunch of that stuff coming up. Plus, reminder, bonus show coming up almost definitely later today, though I don't have a definite time yet, which is why you should ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss it. But that will be coming up probably later today. Goodness. There's so many things I want to say and so little time to say them. Thanks to Lil, who sent us a $5 super chat at the beginning of the show saying, the Enlightenment as discussed by fiery ladies, can't love it more. Hell yeah. Thank you, Lil. And thanks all of you for being here. As always, it is a delight. Seeing y'all here is why we do live shows. Appreciate you being here, your input, your jokes, your insights, etc., etc. Hopefully, we'll see you again tomorrow. But for the nonce, do remember that you don't have to keep people from thinking for themselves. I can't put it any more simply than that, because you are better than religion. Toodles. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for November. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkisson, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Lilith, Ember Lynn, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Godless Engineer, Jester, Lil of All Trades, Deviant Outcast, Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen, The Mighty Filbert, and Secular Phalanist. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember, or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which also includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you all so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.
Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt.